Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name's Dan Baird, alongside is Dane. This is race one of round 3 of the Simple Race Touring Car Championship at the beautifully sunny Thruxton, with weather much improved from the very wet Alpine races we had earlier on. Lewis Manley, car number 2, is looking for his first win of the season, currently third in the championship. He's starting from pole position with Jack Ashton alongside him. Last time out, Callum Cripps took a hat-trick of victories, 4 wins and 2 seconds so far this season. Lead the championship by 15 points. He heads row 2 alongside Ben Willis. And Christopher freshman race winning the Alpines earlier on in the wet alongside Chris Wilson on row 3. Watch out for Ben Bennyworth and Colin Talbot on row 4. They are the only 2 drivers in race 1 who are running the option medium tyre instead of the hards. Everyone else will run them either 2 and 3. And then Max Spooner and Shamak Glodek are rounding out a slightly smaller field today of 10. Be interesting to see as one of the few rear-wheel drive cars out there how well the championship, the Callum Cripps, gets on here. Jack Ashton keeping him honest so far. He's managed to take 1 win and 3 seconds. Jack Ashton so far. He's only been off the podium once. He's only 15 points behind, so there really is no room for error in this third of 7 meetings in this season. 3 16-lap races are ahead of us. And exciting racing prospect, as always, at without doubt the fastest circuit on the calendar, 2.3 miles around the former airfield in Hampshire. Cars making their way through Church, back up Wooden Hill towards the chicane. And Dane, a few words from you. What do you expect to see in this race, with Callum Cripps not on the front row?
Well, I'm expecting him to try and make some moves, to be fair. Yeah, he's obviously been very quick this season so far, leading the championship, but not quite getting there at Thruxton. So we'll have a little look at the starting order for your grid. And yeah, so I'm expecting to try and make some moves. The rear-wheel drive Infinity hasn't looked the strongest car here, so we'll see how he fares though.
Absolutely, it does make it difficult as cars line up and we get ready to go for race 1, 16 laps of Thruxton. Shamak Glodek's just making his way round towards the grid now. I don't know if he's had a problem. And just 1 or 2 technical problems. There might be a small delay on the start, so bear with us. See if we can get the race underway.
So the start is going to be aborted. One of the cars seems to be having power issues. I think it's Max Spooner, starting in 10th on the grid, but was unable to get going. Didn't make it halfway around the formation lap. So the race is going to be restarted. So it looks like an engine failure on the way to the grid for Max Spooner. So we're going to restart the race and we'll get going once again. We'll get all the drivers back out there. We'll go for another formation lap. So this slightly delayed start, but it was actually a really good start for Lewis Manley. So he's not going to be very happy with that, I would imagine. I was just about to say, Dane, it was actually a very good, clean start. And I think if you get that at the start of the race proper, I think we can all be very happy with the last not a lot of carnage, particularly with how much damage can be done to the tyres with a spin round this track more than any. I think we want to see a good clean start and a good fight on track, flat out 4 position between everybody. So I hope we get that problem sorted for Max, who is starting 9th on the grid. Then we can get this 16th race underway very shortly. So here we go then. I believe this is the formation lap.
We're going to have another formation lap first. That would make sense. Let's wait and see if we get a flag or some lights, and that will probably tell us all we need to know. Max Spooner, as always, excelling with his detailed technical feedback that he's able to give to the Simply Race crew. Getting the problem sorted. So apologies for everyone who's joined us on this lovely sunny afternoon. I hope the weather's improved where you are, as it has here, because it was horrible this morning. And then eventually we'll get things underway. We'll be back with you in a minute, too. So apologies everyone for the small delay. We'll just get the feedback in the next few seconds. The drivers are all now present and correct. They are out on their second formation lap as we speak. Here they all are in glorious Technicolor for you. As we look at Max Spooner, we'll be starting ninth on the grid. Good to see him now. After he had some problems getting to the grid the first time round. So 16 laps of Thruxton in prospect. Manley, Ashton, Cripps, Willis, Christopher, Wilson, Bennyworth, Talbot, Spooner and Glodek is the 10-car grid in that order. Ben Bennyworth and Colin Talbot both on row number 4, who are running the softer option medium tyre rather than the hard tyre in this opening race out of 3. Callum Cripps leading the championship, 4 wins in 2 seconds so far, but only 15 points there, Jack Ashton, and only 3rd on the grid. Obviously, one of the minority of cars on this grid who are running rear-wheel drive Infinity rather than the Hyundai, and so work to do around a very high-speed layout with 2 critical big stops, the complex of Camp Cobb and Seagrave at the start of the lap, and then club chicane as they're coming through now, right at the end of the lap, back up to the grid. So Manley with the white car and the red and green trim on the inside nearest the pit wall. Ashton in the Fordzilla livery on the outside. Callum Cripps in the green Brabham car directly behind Lewis Manley as they get lined up. Shamak Glodek, the last car to line up, comes into position now. 16 laps of Thruxton, 7th of 21 races in the Simply Race Touring Car Championship at Thruxton. About to get underway. We wait for the lights to go green. And we're underway. Seems like a good start from Lewis Manley. We can see Cripps has got a good run up the inside of Ashton. It looks like he's going to get into second, into Allard, and he does. I think he gets to move stick. He's just forced out wide though. It's going to be Cripps. Then it's going to be Manley, then Cripps. Now it looks like it might be Adam Christopher who's coming through into 3rd place. It is Ashton back to 4th. They come into the complex for the first time. Will they get through cleanly? There's a bit of contact between Ashton and a couple of the others. And that looks like Chris Wilson, and there's some bumping and barging towards the back of the field as they come through Seagrave on lap 1. It is Manley, then Christopher up to 2nd, Cripps, Ashton, and Shamak Glodek had an absolutely superb start in the pink car number 77. He's gone from 10th at the back of the grid all the way up to 5th. Cripps on the recovery. I think here he comes up the inside now of Jack Ashton into Goodwood, back up into 3rd spot. You won't want Lewis Manley to get away too quickly. He's already a 2.5 behind as they come through Goodwood, down the straight, and now the Fearsome Church, the fastest corner in the whole season. They come through and start the charge up Woodham Hill for the first time. It's a very useful lead that Lewis Manley has got as they come up to the chicane on lap 1 of 16. Manley, Christopher, Cripps, Ashton, Glodek, and that looks to me like it might be Wilson just ahead of Ben Willis. That's 7th, 8th, Max Spooner in 9th. And Colin Talbot bringing up the rear. The lead for Manley as they cross the end of the first lap is 1.3 seconds. An excellent start for car number 2. Lewis Manley going in start search, Dane, of his first win of the season.
Yeah, but as we have seen the entire season long, almost all of the races, Lewis Manley hasn't been the best on his tyres. So he is going to be quick in the first few laps. Then he sort of averages out and does a very similar lap times to those around him. You're looking at Christopher, Cripps, Ashton, sort of your top 4 drivers in the championship. And then near the end, he often does drop off. So he'll want to be gaining up as much of an advantage as possible over Adam Christopher, who is in that 2nd position at the moment. Adam, of course, in the Alpine Championship, leading that one, a win in race 2 earlier on today. So very quick driver. It's his first season in the Simply Race British Championships. He's doing both of them, and he's doing pretty well in both of them as well.
He has. Second be a great result if he can pick it up. He won the reverse grid race 3 in the opening round at Donington back in August. But apart from that, his best finish so far in the touring cars is 6th place. So a 2nd place so far, and closing up slightly, still only about 1.3 seconds off the lead, represents a very, very good start. Cripps and Ashton are still nose to tail as they come through the chicane. We're looking at on our second screen, and Ashton's going to the inside. We can't quite see it on the camera, and Ashton's going to make the move on the inside at Allard, and he manages to get the move done. Can he just get it on as they come through the left-hander at green? He can, and Ashton is past Callum Cripps, who's down to 4th. We go on board with Callum Cripps now, and we're just looking at them. They come through the complex, and Ashton is ahead, but he's got another 1.7 seconds now to make up on 2nd place Adam Christopher. So the orders, we can see the picture in picture there as we go on board with Callum Cripps. The order on lap 3, Lewis Manley leading by 1.4 seconds. It's another 1.7 back to Ashton, then Cripps, Glodek, Bennyworth, who's on the option tyre, Wilson, Willis, Spooner and Talbot, all 6 cars still running relatively smoothly. No big incidents proud to report as yet on lap 3 of 16. Just looking at the sector times, seeing Lewis Manley can find a consistent pace. It's pretty much matching. It's pretty much very little, just a few hundredths through the first 2 sectors of the lap to choose between the top 4. Cripps look like he might be having another run into the chicane against Ashton. He's taking a very wide line. He's going to try and go all the way around the outside of him. He might get this move done, but has to brake a little bit earlier. Ashton goes defensive and holds on to 3rd place for the time being. Let's have a look at the lap times as they come through to complete lap 3. Manley 13.5. Christopher 13.1. He's got the gap down to 1 second. Ashton 13.8 and Cripps 14.4. Losing time to the front 2 as they fight among themselves. What a result this would be for Adam Christopher. You would normally argue that he might be able to benefit from a bit of track knowledge, having raced in the Alpines early, but the Alpines raced in soaking wet conditions. This completely unrepresentative of the nice sunny dry weather that we're getting for the touring car races this afternoon. On to lap 4. Lewis Manley in the lead. He's had 1 second place already this season. That was in race 1 at Brands Hatch. But as we know, sometimes maybe not always the most sympathetic driver on his tyres, and tyre wear around a track like Thruxton is absolutely everything. It's the most abrasive and the highest race for tyre consumption all season. And we'll have to wait and see how he gets on late in the race. He's pulled out quite a bit of a gap on this lap. I don't know if Adam Christopher's made a mistake somewhere. On our screen, we're looking at Ben Bennyworth on the option tyre. He's got Chris Wilson and Ben Willis right behind him. They're 6th, 7th and 8th. Shamak Bloddick is in 5th, just ahead. And Lewis Manley 13.4 that time round. I think Adam Christopher only doing about 14 flats. The gap back up to around 2.5 seconds. And things now as we get onto lap 5, Dane, as we get through the first quarter of the race, settling into a bit more of a rhythm.
Yeah, and that's how most of the races this season have gone as well. The first couple of laps, everyone's just trying to survive really and make up as many positions as possible. But now it becomes a little bit more strategic. Obviously, the drivers do have hybrid. That hybrid is fully dependent on championship position. Each position ahead you are in the championship, you get 15 seconds less hybrid than the other drivers around you. So you get that for the entire race, as we see here now. Bennyworth looking to the inside of Glodek, and now Glodek a bit wide. He's going to have a compromised run down towards the chicane.
It was Glodek just forced a little bit wide to accommodate Bennyworth as they came through Church. Now up Woodham Hill, and we're going 3-1. Chris Wilson, there's going to be big contact and a huge crash for Glodek and for Bennyworth, both into the barriers. Just 3 into 2 or 1 just doesn't go into the chicane. And a huge crash there in the midfield. Bennyworth and Glodek are both going to fall right to the back of the field. And it is just a typical incident that we do get round races at Thruxton. Chris Wilson moves into 5th place for the time being, ahead of Willis Talbot. Colin Talbot, should say, now ahead of Max Spooner, and Ben Bennyworth and Shamak Glodek move to the back of the field. I think we're going to get to have a quick look at a replay, and we can have a look what happened. It all started back at Church. Glodek falls just a little bit wide because he thought Ben Bennyworth was going to come through on him. Left him a bit of room, but was forced out onto the grass. Bennyworth had to get out throttle, and then that allowed Chris Wilson to try and take full advantage. Here's come the replay. You can see Glodek going wide onto the grass. Bennyworth goes to the other. Wilson goes to the other side. Bennyworth is on the outside. Wilson on the inside, and Glodek's gone a little bit wide to try and defend, and then it's gone into Glodek and then into Bennyworth and forced them both off on the run up Woodham Hill. A real shame for Ben Bennyworth, especially as he's on the option tyre. But sometimes that is the way it goes at Thruxton. Both cars back in the race, but obviously towards the rear of the field. Bennyworth in 9th, ahead of Glodek. Another quick look at the front. We go to Jack Ashton, who's managed to... He's still got Callum Cripps on his tail, but these two not quite being able to hold the pace of Manley and Christopher at the front. It's still pretty much as they were. Lewis Manley's lead is 1.8 seconds. He in turn has got another second over Ashton. There's a move a bit further back, and that looks to me, that guy, I think that's Colin Talbot, having a go at Ben Willis. This is for 6th place, and Colin Talbot's going to fancy his chances up the inside of the complex. Willis sees him coming, leaves him racing room, to be fair, tries to hold the line coming through Cobb. Good bit of defensive driving by Ben Willis, and he holds off Colin Talbot for the time being. Really good sporting drive between both of them in this fight for 6th place on lap 7. But Willis has gone a little bit wide out of Seagrave, and they come through the left-hander at Noble. Talbot is able to get close again. He's on a little bit wide, bit of a different line. Max Spooner taking a watching brief in 8th place here. As they come through Goodwood. It's the fast section on at the back of the circuit. Also keeping on the timing screen, but Callum Cripps is all over the back of Jack Ashton. He's right with him. In fact, I think he's got ahead. He has. Just looking on the timing screen, we're not being able to see it on our screens at the moment. Callum Cripps is back ahead of Jack Ashton and into 3rd place. They're absolutely squabbling. I think they've just come through the chicane pretty much side by side. Ashton's back ahead. I think here they are. They come across the line to complete lap 7. I think Cripps was able to just about get up the inside as they came up towards the chicane. But Ashton holding on to the place. It's a 4-point differential here between the two, depending which order they finish in terms of the championship. Ashton can close the gap from 15 to 13 if he can hold on to 3rd place with Callum Cripps in 4th. We come up to the halfway point of the race. Lewis Manley still leading. He lost 4 tenths to Adam Christopher last time round. The gap's back down to a 2.5, and then these two now more than 2 seconds further back in 3rd and 4th. Halfway round lap 8, just coming up to half distance. Chris Wilson stays 5th, just ahead of Ben Willis, Colin Talbot and Max Spooner. They're still 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. Here they are. And then Ben Bennyworth, Shamak Lolly, after their accident a little bit earlier on, running much further down the field. Willis taking a wider line, going to try and maybe get a run, better run through Church than Chris Wilson. And then as they come back up Woodham Hill, see if he can have a go. 4th, 5th place. Here we go back to the battle between Ashton and Cripps. This is what we saw on the previous lap. Ashton going defensive as they came up the hill. Cripps trying to go all the way around the outside of him. He's already tried it once. He was ahead. He was actually ahead all the way ahead going to the chicane of 4. I think there might have been a little bit of contact there, just enough to unsettle Cripps, and Ashton just being able to come back through. Very much rubbing his racing there, and Ashton doing everything he can to hold on to that 3rd place for the time being. Back with your 3rd and 4th place drivers, falling further back behind Lewis Manley and Adam Christopher. But still in 3rd and 4th spot for the time being. Lewis Manley's lead remains 1.3 seconds. His lap time's holding well for the time being. A 14.0 last time round. Adam Christopher a 13.9. Ashton and Cripps both dropping back into the 1.15s. So not quite being able to hold the pace. I wonder if they are losing out today. And you'll probably be able to tell me more than I would. Whether all the squabbling between them means they'll be wearing out their tyres more.
Definitely to a degree more. Just depends on how much more. And I think Cripps is probably going to have the harder time out there. He's obviously in the hole in the air that we're currently seeing an almost carbon copy of what we saw on the replay just a few moments ago. Cripps at the outside of the chicane. He's going to back out this time. A little bit of a lock-up. He goes to the inside. Oh, he backs out of that one. He's not going to get up into the podium position just yet. Having said that, actually, let's have a look at Adam Christopher now, because he is catching our race leader.
He is indeed. I just saw the lap times flash up. Lewis Manley did a 14.5 last time round. Adam Christopher 14.0. Looks like almost all the time was lost in sector 3, which suggests to me that maybe Lewis Manley made a mistake at the chicane. We've got a penalty for Max Spooner has come up on our screen in 8th place, as we'll keep an eye on that. That's for track limits, we believe. So unfortunately, that might well drop him. Well, it's certainly going to drop him behind Ben Bennyworth, who's only about 4 seconds behind him now. It may well drop him back into the clutches of Shamak Lodek towards the back of the field. So we look at our leaders, less than a second between them now, with 6.5 laps to go. Lewis Manley looking for his 1st win of the season. Adam Christopher looking for his 2nd, but the 1st without the aid of a reverse grid. Not much between them. They come through Church. A little bit of a run wide from Manley there, really trying to push on, and it's given Christopher a chance to close up the gap once again, back down to 8 tenths. Delta coming down just a bit more as they break, hug to the inside, they come into the club chicane. They go right, then left, and then right back onto the, I say it's a bit straight, more of a pit curve as it is at Thruxton. There's barely a straight line on this track, and they cross the line with 6 laps to go. 14.3 and 14.3 that time by both of them. The gap 7 tenths of a second at the line. There's still not too much either between Ashton and Cripps, another 3.2 seconds down the road. Let's have a look at the battle for the midfield. We are going to have a look at, move up the inside there. I think that's Ben Willis finally getting past Chris Wilson, the 5th spot. Great move at Allard. They come through the left-hander of Green towards the complex, and a really, really good move that for Ben Willis. And now Chris Wilson is having to go increasingly defensive because of the increasing interest of Colin Talbot. Talbot started at the back of the grid in 10th place. He's made the way up to 7th, and he would be fancying his chances getting a top 6, which would, without doubt, be his best result of the season so far, and take full advantage of the fact that he is running the option tyre. Round they go, around the long, seemingly never-ending right-hander of Goodwood. You want to get back on the power as early as you can, but you don't want to understeer out wide. Look how defensive Wilson's having to go now. It'll be a nice wide line here from Talbot into Church. He's almost in moment to be a little bit too close to Wilson. His run's going to be compromised. He's got a really good run here. Wilson goes right, Talbot goes left. Talbot might get past him before they even get the chicane. He's managed to step his foot in. Wilson almost went a bit too defensive, and Talbot makes the move stick well before they get to club. Colin Talbot in car number 21. You can't miss him because it says Talbot on the side of the car, and he moves into the top 6 with 5 laps to go.
Actually, a funny story is that livery was created by Chris Wilson, who is just overtaken. Literally in Microsoft Paint. He's just gone and written Talbot on the side of the car with Microsoft Paint.
Really? That was created in Paint? You don't say. You can't tell, can you, Dane? Let's have another look at the leaders' times then, with 5 laps to go. Manley a 14.1, Christopher 14.3. The gap's 1.1 seconds between the two of them. Still 2.8 seconds over Jack Ashton, who's still got Callum Cripps right behind him in 3rd place. So not too much has changed in the last couple of laps between that top 4. Lewis Manley is on for a really good result here. 20 points. That's getting past 100 for the season, up to 101. And we go back to the Ashton and Cripps battle. They come through Church on lap 12. Perfect line from Ashton up the hill. He's going to have to go very defensive again because Cripps was maybe slightly better. Obviously, the one thing we can't tell for sure is whether on the hybrid or not. I do wonder if when Cripps got ahead a couple of laps ago, whether he was on the hybrid then. But really good defensive line by Ashton through the chicane. 4 laps to go now. Over the line they come. That Manley's lead is back out to 1.4 seconds. A 14.8 by Christopher last time round. So he's dropped back a bit, but he is still on for a very good result. 4 laps to go. It's Manley, Christopher, Ashton, Cripps, Willis, Talbot, Wilson, Bennyworth, Spooner, and Glodek bringing up the rear after that accident earlier on. Into the final quarter of maybe not the most wham-bam action-packed touring car race ever, but it has been an intriguing one, and it's good to see some new names and new faces running at the front of the pack and giving Cripps and Ashton a bigger run for their money than perhaps we've seen in some of the other races so far this season and in previous seasons. Lewis Manley is a previous winner at this track. 2018, he won both races 1 and 2, so he does have form around this circuit. But form, as we know, can all go south, particularly around this track. Can't manage your tyres, but Lewis Manley so far seems to be doing a very good job of it with just over 3 laps to go. Ashton's run wide out of Church there, but I don't think Cripps is close enough to make the move as they come back up the hill on lap 13. Past the big grass bund on the left-hand side, keep the noise away from the A303. Through the right, the left and the right, cross the line. 3 laps to go now. Lewis Manley's lead is up to still around 1.5. But I tell you what, these two are actually catching Adam Christopher pretty quickly, Dane. Ashton's on his fastest lap of the race, I think last round of 13.6. He took 1.1 seconds out of Christopher last time round, and the gap's down to 1.4.
I mean, Christopher's probably been pushing quite hard to try and catch up to Manley in front. Ashton's sort of just been managing the gap to Cripps behind. And yeah, so it's not really that surprising that Ashton and Cripps are catching up. They've stopped with the battling for the last couple of laps. And yeah, they're starting to catch up quite significantly. Yeah, catching very quickly. Jack Ashton took 4 tenths out of Adam Christopher in Sector 1 alone. The gap is now down to 1 second. Well, 2.5 laps to go. If he can keep catching at this rate, he does have time to chase him down, and it may come down to a move for second on the very last lap, and you can be absolutely sure that Callum Cripps will be poised to take full advantage should there be any contact. So up the hill they come. Lewis Manley now leading by 2 seconds. He is on course, having led from the flag to take, I should say, his first win of this 2022-23 season. We are on board with Jack Ashton, and look how much closer he is now to Adam Christopher, who's going to have to work very hard to hold on to second and maybe even to third as we go into the last 2 laps. Christopher's times have dropped into the 15s now, and the gap is down to 4 tenths of a second. Penultimate lap through the left-hander at green to remain on board with Jack Ashton into Campbell. Very aggressive line, taking lots and lots of curve there from Jack Ashton through Cobb as well. He's determined. He's all over the back of him now. What, just a 1 or 2 car lengths as they come out of Seagrave. They come up towards Noble.
Christopher having to go defensive. A wide line being taken out by Jack Addy. Just about gets in front of him. Almost contact there. That could have ended in tears. Very, very quickly to come into Noble through Goodwood. And you can really see now with the time drop off, and there's almost a gap inside there for Ashton. And Ashton, I think, is going to get on the inside now. Callum Cripps, I think, will want to follow through, but Jack Ashton is going to have a very good chance of getting into second place as they come into Church. Here they come, and he's managed to hang on to it. Great drive by Adam Christopher. How much longer can he hold these two off? This is Sergio Perez, Mexican Minister of Defence stuff as they come up the hill on Woodham Hill, the penultimate lap. Lewis Manley is good for the win, but who's going to be second, third and fourth? And this race really has finally come to life because of tyre management in the closing stages. On board in the picture-in-picture with Callum Cripps looking at the two cars ahead, but it is nose to tail, second, third and fourth. On to the final lap. Lewis Manley, barring an absolute disaster, is going to win the race. He leads by almost 3 seconds and will remain with this battle for the podium. Adam Christopher giving it everything, just runs onto the grass coming out of Allard, but he's got enough room to defend coming into the complex. Jack Ashton will take loads and loads of curb. Again, you could argue maybe a bit too much. Super aggressive, trying to get the wrong side. He's on the outside going into Seagrave. Just a few inches between the two cars onto the back of the circuit. Ashton goes to the right, but again, he's going to be on the outside going into Noble. There was a bit of contact as Christopher tried to shut the door this time. Callum Cripps is now right there. Who's going to finish second and third and fourth? We don't know. And Cripps has now got a chance to come on the inside into Goodwood, and he takes it. He's not minding trying to get the pair of them. And Jack Ashton is the big loser on the first half of this final lap, and Cripps has still got the inside line. Can he get his own second place? Oh, Christopher's been spun round. Just not quite enough room for Cripps to get up the inside. And Cripps is off as well. Cripps is off as well. And they're all off. All three of them off. Absolute disaster. And I think this means Ben Willis and Colin Talbot are going to get on the podium here. They've got past all three of them as they rejoin. Lewis Manley is going to win the race, blissfully unaware of the absolute carnage behind him. Who knows what orders they're going to finish in. Lewis Manley is just coming up to the line now to take the checkered flag. It's going to be Ben Willis is going to finish second. Colin Talbot from last on the grid is going to finish third. Congratulations to Lewis Manley for a first win of the season. Then Willis, then Talbot. And we wait to see where the recovering drivers after that three-way accident are going to finish. Ben Bennyworth is going to finish fourth with the option tire, I think. Yes, he has. And then Callum Cripps has just got past Chris Wilson. Got past Chris Wilson on the line for fifth place. Jack Ashton sixth. And then Adam Christopher. They've crossed the line. Cripps fifth, Ashton sixth, Christopher seventh. And it was a slow burner of a race with an extremely dramatic finale. But there can be no doubt about the winner for the first time this season at a track he's always gone well at, Lewis Manley. We're going to hopefully get Dane is very kindly going to get us up a replay so we can have a look at the three-way collision again of the come between Goodwood and Church on the last lap. Callum Cripps we said he would be in a position maybe to take full advantage in the last couple of laps. He managed to do that with Jack Ashton having to get out of it through Noble. Cripps went up the inside coming into Goodwood. Then Adam Christopher tried to shut the door maybe a little bit too late. We're going to rewind the tape and have a look at the replay. See if we can trace back exactly what happened. A great finish to an absorbing race, to be honest. It was quite tense in stages. Maybe not lots of action with only having 10 cars. And unfortunately, we can't quite get the replay. I'm sure it's something that Dane in the stewards room is going to have a look at. We're going to be back in a couple of minutes' time with the podium interviews, which won't involve any of the drivers involved in the accident. Lewis Manley, Ben Willis, Colin Talbot. They'll be with you in a couple of minutes. Well, what a dramatic finish to the opening Simply Race Touring Cars Championship race of the day here at Thruxton. I'm going to start with our third place finisher, Colin Talbot. come in and talk to us, Colin. Last on the grid, first. Oh yeah. Oh no, eighth. I'm sorry. I apologise. Eighth with the option tyre, but first podium of the season, and I guess you got a ringside seat for all the action in front of you.
It's actually my first podium ever in SRBC.
Oh, that's absolutely fantastic. Must be delighted.
I'm thrilled, yeah. Particularly because it was on the option tyre, because I thought I can make some places to start off with, but then I'm going to fall back. Had a really good bout with Chris Wilson and Ben Willis. Chris made a small mistake, so me and Ben got away. But yeah, it's absolutely brilliant driving.
I was going to come to my next question. Already in qualifying, your options are the medium in race one. How much of a difference does it make in terms of, are there particular areas where it's strong? Do you feel the difference all the way around, or is it one or two corners be a benefit?
Hard tyre was down to 20 something, he said. So yeah, yeah. Beautiful race.
Okay, thank you very much, Colin. Congratulations. We'll now be joined by Ben Willis, who finished second. In the midfield, which I'm sure you enjoyed. To talk us through your race, particularly sort of the incident that happened coming out of church around halfway through.
It started off really good battle with. Managed to get past him. I think in the complex, I think I made a bit of a mistake. Managed to just get past. And then spent most of the race holding off from Colin. And then yeah, just saw about 3 cars off at the final corner. Didn't really know what was going on. Suddenly second going into the final corner. So very happy.
So you can't complain with the podium. Are you looking forward to running the option tyre on?
I think we're going to struggle as front drives. We're going to a bit. I think it'll be great at the start. By the end of the race, I'm worried. So I haven't got that to race 3.
Fair enough. Thank you very much, Ben. Halsey benefit from a front row star in race 2. And for the first time this season, Lewis Manley, winner at Thruxton at least twice before, lights to flag, and I guess you had the full race out of everybody, it turns out.
Pretty much. I'm very pleased to start like this. Obviously, my last win was last year, of course, at Brands Hatch, so perfect way to start the day. Obviously, with Callum and Adam came together at the end, which was very unfortunate for them, as they were 2 and 3, so they obviously dropped right back. So that's given me a bit of hope in the championship, so right back in business.
That's great. Obviously, we know Thruxton's very hard on tyres. How did you sort of find tyre management, particularly through the second half?
I was trying to keep it circumspect on the front leg, because that's normally the most.
Obviously, with a lot of the sort of main championship going a bit further down the grid for race 2, you're on pole again. You must fancy chances of doing the double like you did in 28.
Yeah, so best of luck in 20.
We'll see you later on if I have to bag another podium. Thank you very much for everyone for joining us. We'll be back with you up to race 1. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. Testing, testing. Testing, testing. 1, 2, 1, 2. So welcome back to the Simply Race Touring Car Championship here at Thruxton. The good news is race 2 is about to begin. The bad news, I'm afraid, is while we have sound, we don't have vision. We're having a few technical problems with the feed and the screen, and so it looks like this is going to have to be a radio broadcast for race 2. Just to bring up to date with the news from race 1, a couple of contentious incidents towards the end, particularly was the one for second place on the final lap. No penalties were given as a result of either of them, and so it is the grid order for race 2 is the same as the finishing order for race 1. So Lewis Manley on pole position, Ben Willis alongside him,